Hello and welcome to the Always an Athlete podcast. This is our first season, second episode, and I'm really delighted today to have as a special guest, Ben Chase from the University of Florida. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and grateful for you reaching out to connect.
Thank you. I'm excited that you're here. So, sir, you're the Director of NIL Strategy for what many argue is the greatest university in the state of Florida, and I think in a lot of ways, both sports and academics, one of the best universities in the country. Would you tell me about your role as the Director of NIL Strategy?
Yeah, and I will echo what you just said. I do think we are a top 5 public school and a top 5 athletic program across the board. I mean, like there's no one really in the space close to us. I'd say UCLA is up there and Stanford, but competitively in football, they're not close to where we have been and where we want to be. So I've been here since January 2021. I am a Gator, so I'm working for my alma mater. So I do have a little bit more probably juice in this position than most people do. It's been a whirlwind and it's never stopping. The beast just gets bigger, but it's a good kind of busy to have, right? Like I always say, I work probably 70, 80 hours a week, but I also am at my alma mater. I love what I do. I'm around young, smart, competitive athletes, Olympians, and it gives me a lot of juice to keep going for sure.
That's great. And I saw in the news actually just in the last couple of days that UF struck an unprecedented deal with Chipotle. Could you tell me about that, both what the deal is and how it came about?
Well, pretty funny timing for those that are watching on video. I have the Chipotle card, so every athlete gets an individual card with their name on it, unless they're an international athlete. They just get one that's blank. But yeah, it's year 2 of Chipotle dabbling into this partnership space. Year 1 with the Gators, and as you can see, my office is a mess. Behind me, if you're watching, you can see those are all the teams that I had to sort out these cards, and I'm doing individual handouts of them over the next week or so. But it's cool because, we're lucky. They went with Ohio State last year, and my friend up there, his name's Logan, he crushes it. And it went so well that they decided to expand. So they got to Florida and Georgia, our rival, but it is what it is. And it's a really cool opportunity for every athlete at Florida to get 15 entrees. And on the back, I got to actually read it now. It says 15 entrees with up to 2 add-on items. So I'm guessing like that's guac or extra meat. I don't know.
Right.
Per week during their season. So it's 15 weeks, 15 entrees, probably valued at $200, or I don't know how much Chipotle is these days. I don't go very often, but it's a win. I mean, I have athletes that last year when Ohio State got it, texted me and said, when are we going to get it? So
right.
1 year later, we were able to do it. And it's just it's kind of one of those things where now we can mention it in recruiting, right? Hey, like, if you come here, this program is still around, you're going to get free Chipotle during your season. And a lot of kids care about that, the little things. It's not all about, the dollars. It's just a dollar saved, a dollar earned. When we filmed the Chipotle commercial, we had athletes walking up to Chipotle, not knowing what's going on just to get Chipotle. Right. So like, it was a really cool partnership, and the team at Chipotle and the marketing team behind it have been really fun to work with.
Congratulations on that. So if you could expand on what your role is day to day. You work a lot of hours. You all have tremendous sports across the board. I'm going to ask you about that later, how the school has managed to achieve greatness across so many different sports. But when you think about it at the organizational level and at the individual player level, how does that strategy factor into how you spend your time day to day?
Yeah, I mean, day to day, it's the roller coaster. If I did not have Outlook calendar, I would not be able to live. I help with recruiting for a lot of our different sports. And during football season, it's a lot of gymnastics, softball, women's basketball, swim and dive, lacrosse, soccer. So like I'm not affiliated with one team, but I help every team in the capacity they want me to help them. I do think it's one of those things where, I've been here for 2.5 years now, and there's momentum with some programs, which is really good, but every coach is different. When I first got here, I didn't interview with every coach, so they don't know who I am, right? They just think I'm some random road trip guy or something. So it takes a little bit of time to get rapport and kind of be able to let me get in front of their potential athletes. Last thing they want to do is, they have a really good system for recruiting, and then I go in and I screw it up because I say something that's not on brand or in line with their team. So I try my best to stay on message with each coach. Like our soccer coach, for example, her message is student, person, player. So when I'm in there, I focus on preaching that message aligned with what I do on the day to day. Outside of that, I'm talking to third parties, so helping our athletes get one-on-one deals. Now with NIL Go, giving athletes feedback on how to get those deals submitted and kind of like the back end of that. I work very, very closely, probably too closely without getting compensated with our Learfield team, which is Gator Sports Properties. A lot of schools have, it's our MMR partner, multimedia rights. They sell our sponsorships and all that stuff. So behind me right here, if you're watching, I have the Beats headphones from our Beats Steel DJ got. So this is one of 30 pairs of Beats headphones, custom made for the Gators. You can't buy these. Inside is a letter from DJ Lagway, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's I help athletes with signing Fanatics deals, trading cards, and also just be their friend. I mean, there's a lot of athletes on campus that are from all over the world, and not their family's not always here. I'm an only child, so I kind of think of almost 500 of our athletes as my little brother, little sister, and I go hang out in the lunchroom and hang out. And if they just want to talk about geometry, I'll talk about geometry.
That's great. And your path to UF has been a very interesting one. I understand that part of your path was inspired by a conversation that you actually had with a friend who was an athlete, and that before going to college, you had a job at Walt Disney World. So would you talk to me about what your path to being the director of NIL strategy for the legendary University of Florida Gators was like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, when you look up unorthodox in the dictionary, my name is probably right next to it.
Right.
In college, my nickname was actually the exception because I did everything a different way. But yes, going back, I mean, I didn't go to college till I was 21. I worked at Walt Disney World, Splash and Thunder Mountain, Tom Sawyer Island, and then I was a concierge at some of the hotels. And when I was there, I kind of got frustrated with one of my friends who was in college, doing the college program, and she was upset about something, and she kind of like. Then I got upset, and she goes, "Well, if you're not happy with your life, you should do something about it." And that day in her apartment, I applied to go to college at Valencia College, Valencia Community College at the time, now Valencia College in Orlando. Just a small. I mean, it's a pretty big community college. Usually, it feeds into UCF. Did that for spring, summer, fall, spring, and only applied to transfer to Florida. It was kind of like the dream school, if you will. I got in, ironically, on the steps outside of Magic Kingdom, which was kind of cool to find out that kind of full circle there.
Yes.
Went to UF, was here for, 2 semesters. We went 11-1 one semester of football and then 4-8 the next year. So it was definitely a high of highs and low of lows. And then if it was the playoff era, we would have been a playoff team, which is crazy to say. And then I went to law school at GW in Washington, D.C. So that was a really cool time. I love DC. It's probably one of my favorite 2 cities.
Same.
And then after that, I was an attorney for a little bit. Didn't really like it, or at least it wasn't what I was looking for long term. I left the litigation side and got into NIL from a Twitter DM. DM'd this guy on Twitter, said, "Hey, I'd love to work with you." 30 days later, they hired me. So I worked with that company, helped them kind of change their business model. And now they're one of the leaders in the space in their niche. And I left there after like 9 months, and then I applied for this job. My friend, she applied for it and took a job with the WWE instead. And so I applied. I had multiple people message, UF, "Hey, you should at least give them an interview," yada yada yada. I hadn't heard back, so I said, if I don't hear back by Monday of week 0, I'm doing this road trip.
Right.
So long story short, I went on a crazy college football road trip to the most games at the time, 77 games, all on the road, still the most in a road trip, which is incredible to say. And about 30-something games in, I get a phone call when I'm sitting at a restaurant in Boone, North Carolina from the 352, which is Gainesville, Florida. And they said, "Hey, are you still interested in this position?" I said, "Yes, but I am finishing this road trip."
Right.
Which was a bold thing to say, but realistically, it was the end of October. I interview in November. They're not going to hire me during Christmas time, right? It doesn't make sense. So yeah, I interviewed from, the lobby of Washington State and a McDonald's parking lot, and I got the job offer. Yeah. So after I saw Georgia win their second national championship in LA. I drove to San Diego for the night. Then I drove to Tucson where my apartment was, packed it up, and drove all the way back to Gainesville and started here, which is crazy to say. It's now been, 2.5 years or so. I started January 23rd, 23. So yeah, it's been a roller coaster, but it's been fun, stressful, challenging, and rewarding.
That's a tremendous journey, and I'd like to ask you a couple questions that call on your experience both in NIL specifically, but also your perspective as a lawyer. So the NIL litigation in various ways is in the news all the time, both on ESPN, so it's on non-law news, but also there are a lot of legal analysis of where litigation is going to take sports. And so do you have a perspective on really any category of the NIL litigation? It could be the current cases where players who went to junior college are trying to be eligible, and at least this year, a lot of them have been successful in getting on the
Yeah,
field. There's the litigation about whether and how players can be compensated in the first instance. And there's at least one category of cases from athletes from my generation who weren't able to get paid during sports, but who now are going back and asking essentially whether they can state claims to be compensated for what they would have been paid if the rules have been different. So those are a
yeah.
couple different categories. I'm interested in your
Well, I
perspective on
mean,
them.
I do think there's a lot of exposure for those that weren't in this first group of athletes to get in the settlement to try to get theirs. And whether it's from the NCAA, their conference, their university. I mean, there's a lot of lawsuits out there. I think there's one at Ohio State and some other schools of former athletes suing their university, suing their league, and suing the NCAA. But it's going to be. I mean, they all are justified, especially now with the settlement and the back payments that are kind of on hold because there's some challenges to the settlement.
Right.
But it's going to be a long journey. I do think there's going to be Title IX issues brought up. I do think that there's going to be this extension of what you said. The smaller schools with the 5 years or having the eligibility. I do think that we need to figure out a way to have some kind of collective bargaining. However, if I was the father of the left tackle at Notre Dame, I'm not having my son, respectfully, collectively bargain with a field hockey player
Sure.
or a competitive gymnast or whatever. So there may be some kind of spin-off of football, men's and women's basketball, and then maybe some reorg of the rest of it. I mean, I do believe that we've lost about 70 D1 sports or so across the country since the settlement, which is sad to say. I mean, that's not just for the athletes, but for the coaches, the trainers. That's a lot of jobs. But there is a counterpoint to that.
Tell me what you mean by that, lost to sports. Could you clarify that?
Yeah, the teams have been cut.
Right.
So a perfect example is Grand Canyon. Their men's volleyball team, which was just in the Final Four, no longer exists.
Right. I got
Right. And now that there's a counter argument to say, hey, football is, subsidizing those sports anyways, and now we have to pay football. Right. So that's a fair argument. They before NIL and all this, it was football pays the football builds the buildings, basketball keeps the lights on. That was what they always used to say. And that's something where now it's okay, well, football builds the buildings, keeps the lights on, pays the players, and only that. That's probably where we're at, unless we can get to a point where there is some subsidization, maybe from the Olympic Committee. I mean, UF had 43 athletes as Olympians in the last cycle, 2024. Not all of them current athletes, but athletes we trained. And maybe we ask the Olympic Committee, who, gets paid, $600 million for the rights from CBS, to get some of that money to trickle down to the schools that are training the athletes that are being put on, right, for entertainment purposes, right? So there's a lot of things that I see happening, and there's going to be more and more litigation. And I think we're at a spot right now where it's not a great reckoning, but it's just for lack of a better word, realignment, right? Of what the priorities are. We are a nonprofit, but we've never acted, but we need to be a business, right? And at the end of the year, before NIL, you want to say nonprofit, so you got to build a new building or give someone a raise. But now financially, it's about revenue, creating new opportunities to make money, and recruiting. Does what you're doing now move the needle in recruiting? Does a podcast studio move the needle? Does a barbershop move the needle? If yes, all right, we'll invest in it. If no, rethink this, right? And also, are there enough athletes that are going to use those benefits for us to justify it?
It's great insight. And who are the people at the table for, at least for your institution, thinking about these things, both for today and the future? How does a team, how does a school, how does administration put the right players on the field to stay ahead?
I mean, it's top down approach. I mean, I was just in a meeting this week with our AD, our senior leadership, and we were talking about revenue. We were talking about finding new ways to make money, and also find ways to drive NIL dollars to all of our athletes. And what does that look like? Also, it's a team by team thing. Coaches were hired to coach, not fundraise. But that's where we were at. If you can't fundraise, you don't you're not going to have a team to coach. And that's an unfortunate truth, probably the unfortunate truth. And it's trickling down to every sport. We see money and dollars being thrown around in Olympic sports that you wouldn't even imagine. But that's also because that coach that's throwing that money around knows that he doesn't have a job if he doesn't find a way to get money to the athletes, right? So like it's just a wild time. But it's all hands on deck at UF. Every coach is invested. Every coach cares about getting opportunities for their athletes to help them and help their teams win. And when it comes to making decisions on who to put on the field and who whatever, like that's up to the coach. It's not like a booster saying we need to play this guy because I'm paying XYZ. Like
Right.
at the end of the day, the coach is trying to win with the best players.
That's fair. And so I'd like to transition, if we could, to what I consider to be the fun part of our interviews. I call it the mic and drill. I don't know if you played basketball growing up.
Yeah, basketball is my favorite sport.
Okay.
Football is my favorite. College football is my favorite tradition. But yeah,
All
the
right.
mic and drill. It's where you keep doing this and you do the layup.
Back
And
and
yeah,
forth.
yeah.
Right. All right.
Exhausting. Endurance.
All right. So we'll do the mic and drill for a few questions. So my first one for you, sir, is: do you prefer high intensity training or going for a long run?
Oh, that's a good question. And I know I'm supposed to give you a quick answer, but I'm an Orange Theory guy. But in the last 5 weeks, I've started running, and I run 5 miles. So last week was my most miles in a week, 33 miles. So I would say high intensity training is right now, but running is catching up.
Okay. Great. And who is the greatest football gator of all time?
I mean, it's really hard not to say Tim Tebow, but I would say Steve Spurrier because he won a Heisman here as a player, came back, won our first national championship as a coach, and set the foundation for Gator Nation.
Greatest Gator basketball player of all time.
Man,
I'll even go top two.
I mean, it's really hard not to say. Like, I think it's a cop out to say the 04s of Torian Green,
Right.
Corey Brewer, Al Horford, and Jakeem Noah. Those four together. I mean, Walt just made a case for it, man. Walter Clayton Jr.
I did.
just put on one of the greatest individual runs in NCAA history. I mean, it wasn't like it was Steph Curry-esque on a team that could win a championship. And then my soft spot is my guy, Jason Williams.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. So you've been to all these stadiums during your tour and probably since. Top 5 college football stadiums in the country.
The Swamp is in the top 5. I don't think it's number 1, but it's up there. LSU at night specifically. I went to the Penn State Whiteout. That is on its own incredible. They've renovated their stadium since, so the stadium's probably good. I really, really think, like, when it comes to atmosphere, like Ole Miss is really fun. I'm saying a lot of SEC schools in Big Ten. Let me do one out west.
Rose Bowl?
BYU. Rose Bowl's overrated.
Okay.
Rose Bowl's terrible.
Okay.
It's one because no one stays, no one cares about it. It's a historic building, sure, but it's like it's just bad.
Right.
It's flat. You're parking on a golf course. It just doesn't make sense. BYU is legit. Utah is legit. Those schools, I mean, I would say those two in the West Coast are probably pretty fun. I have a soft spot for Baylor as well. That's probably 7.
So drawing on your past experience, would you rather trial?
I mean, 98% of cases, 99% of cases settle. I don't really do a lot, obviously now. But I do think that if I want to, it's tough play. I just think there's a means to an ends for it.
Okay, and then from your life, even before that, favorite Disney park?
Animal Kingdom. I love Animal Kingdom because when I worked at Disney, it was the one park that did not remind me of Disney. And since then, they've added Avatar and some really cool stuff. So, and I just love going on safari.
I love it as well. All right. So I want to ask you about your perspective on competition. The genesis and the inspiration behind creating the show was that in all the chapters of my life, both when I was playing sports every day to now where I play sports for the purpose of staying in shape, but really the competition comes through practicing law. What I've had in my mind, even at the front of my mind sometimes and always at the back of my mind, was that when I'm competing, I actually feel my best. And so
Mm.
I wanted to get your perspective on that idea. I call it always an athlete. It could mean something, or you may put it differently in your own life, but what does competition mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, competition brings out the best in somebody, and also when you're pushed to your limits, you really find out who you are as a person. I mean, when you said earlier, high intensity trainer, long run. I mean, I I don't really call myself a runner, but I did like I ran 10 miles and that was brutal. But it also is like one of those things where like, I made a decision to do it, so I'm going to go out and do it. For me, I'm competitive. I'm a big I'm a big billiards and pool guy,
Okay.
and that's where I kind of turn it on. But growing up, I mean, basketball, if I missed a layup, I was the first one back on defense, and I think that that's kind of how I see life. Like when I make a mistake, you don't want to be in front of me because the next time, I'm going to be putting in the work. And I think when it comes to this space, NIL specifically, like it's one of those things where, like I said earlier, you're just feeding this beast, so there could be some kind of drain there and strain. So I'm not a big person to take breaks and vacation, but like you have to learn when it's time to like turn it off just to get refreshed. Because in a sport, like you need to have those rest times too. And I do think that that's something that a lot of people take for granted. Because when you're grinding, and you're going 9 rounds, like even in a 9 round boxing, you're taking a 2 minute rest. And I think that that's something that people don't really think about. And the burnout in this space is very high. I mean, people in my role are trying to get out of it left and right all across the country. It's a thankless job. I mean, I don't get any like bonuses or anything, which is fine, but like, it's never enough. And, it's rare. It's not rare, but like, we get an athlete $10,000 and they just think it's like a drop in the bucket for them, which is
Right.
incredible. Which is, I mean, it's crazy to say, but like
Right.
some of this money that these athletes are making, $10,000 is like not enough.
Right. Wow, how things have changed from the college sports of
You can't
yeah.
give a kid cheese on his
Can't get
burger.
anything. Yeah. Couldn't get anything. So in the time we have left, I wanted to talk to you about really two more topics that I think about a lot and that I think are important to a lot of people in competition and a lot of leaders that I've met. And one of them is adversity. The other one is legacy. And so starting with adversity, Ben, are there things that you've experienced in life, either professionally or otherwise, that fuel your drive to succeed now? And then my related question with respect to legacy is, what mark do you want to leave on the University of Florida when it comes to NIL?
Yeah, good question. It's fun. It's funny you have this as part of your pillars and part of the podcast. I have a saying, and I've said it since I was probably 12. There's always drama in legacy, which is basically this saying. And that saying came about because I was playing my friend in a NASCAR game that I never played ever, and I beat him first time I ever raced in a NASCAR video game, and I was in last place. And he just looked at me and he goes, "How did that happen?" And I said, there's always drama and legacy, and it's been part of my life. And like my friends make fun of it because it's kind of like my like saying. So going to this, like when it comes to adversity, I mean, I didn't pass the bar exam the first time, right? And I didn't get the jobs I wanted out of college or law school. And but it's your story is however long it needs to take to get to where it needs to be. Like my story is not done being written. Your story is not done being written to the listeners, and there you're gonna go through hard times. Like last year I lost 35 pounds. I wasn't where I wanted to be physically,
Right.
right? And that took a while to do. And it also was one of those things where like I never thought I was fat, but I also knew that I wasn't where I wanted to be. And all I did is, I was going to Orange and stuff like that. But on the days I wasn't doing anything. So every day since July 1st, 2024, I walk 5 miles a day,
Wow.
if not run now. Every day. I haven't missed a day. Like I'll go to NACTA, be out until 2 a.m. and walk 5 miles after that in the lobby of the hotel. So I'd say that's on the adversity side. I mean, the bar exam thing really sucked. Not passing the bar the first time, I was like 2 points away, and
Gotta wait
it
six
was
months.
Yeah, exactly. It put me on, yeah, I mean, it was a great reset. It
Right.
put me behind, but I wouldn't be where I am without that failure, and I wouldn't be who I am. I mean, again, I didn't go to college till I was 21, so like every story is different. And when it comes to legacy at Florida, if and whenever I leave, I want people to say, "Hey, Ben was someone who gave it his all, and he never backed down, if you will, right? And he loves the orange and blue, and he loves his university, he loves his athletes. I have a rule: my athletes, I don't even know my work office number. I just have my cell phone, my personal cell phone.
Right.
I don't text after 10 o'clock,
Right.
but like, these athletes can call me at any time, and I really, I take pride in giving it all I can, and I think that's where I'd like to say my legacy is. And hopefully, now I've had two mentees get jobs in NIL at San Diego State and Penn State, and building this little NIL tree, if you will, and they're going to do great work there. And it's exciting to see. I think we're in a world on LinkedIn and Twitter and stuff like that where you scroll through and you get this kind of FOMO and jealousy, where I'm trying to be someone that amplifies the wins of others. On Twitter, I see a lot of people that never share other people's content,
Right.
or never share someone else's wins. If you scroll through someone's feed and it's just them tweeting, that's not right. Like, to me, like, that just means you just care about one person, right? If you're not amplifying other people's wins on LinkedIn, social, Twitter, like, you need to take a step back and kind of tell, like, you can write your story, you can tell your story, but you didn't get where you are by yourself.
That's right.
Like, and that's something that I try to preach to our athletes too. Like, you may be the best player in the world, but like, someone helped you get there.
That's right. And you
And
need someone
I
today
also,
to help you go forward.
yeah. And I always believe, tell someone where you want to go and they'll help you get there too. Right. So like, that's the other side of that.
Okay. And last thing. So I'm in South Florida, and a lot of my colleagues, friends, neighbors are diehard Gators. So one, I think they'll be happy to hear all the work that you're doing on behalf of the school, and also your leadership perspective on how to make the school continue to be great. But what I want to know from you, and I think that they'll benefit from, is, sir, how do they help? How can the public, both fans and businesses and the community, support UF athletics?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where when it comes to businesses, we're looking for companies that have marketing spend, that believe that there is ROI investing in Gator athletics. I don't want someone to just cut a check for cutting a check's purpose. Like, I want there to be a true value add for them. I mean, if they're a Gator and they just want to help the Gators win, they can cut a check as well.
Okay.
That's fine too. But for me, it's one of those things where I want there to be a clear ROI and KPIs and a return on that investment, that they're coming back and they want to, like, I think college athletics is something where people want to feel a part of a tribe. And if they're a Gator or a Knoll or a Hurricane, they can feel even more a part of a tribe now with NIL opportunities, one. And two, like, if they're a business leader, like, there's ways for us to move the needle.
Right.
There's plenty of athletes from South Florida that could be a part of what they're building. We have in DJ Lagway, he has an equity partnership now, which is
Wow.
crazy to say.
That's
But like,
incredible.
it's one of those things where these are influencers and athletes. We have gymnasts that have over 100,000 followers on Instagram with international appeal. Depending on the product or business, like, that's something that could really move the needle. I'll end with this, and whatever your last questions are. Like, we had a gymnast who sold over 10,000 hair bows, 1,000 leotards, has bought 2 houses in Gainesville in this market. She's now a landlord. She also was an alternate in the Olympics, so she went to Paris, and she's pre-med. So like, that's a story that needs to be told, because that's like, she's done it all. And for those that don't like NIL and think that there's a lot of bad things, like, none of those things she would have just been an alternate in the Paris Olympics. Instead, she's a business owner. Her nickname is the CEO. She hired her mom. It's just like an incredible opportunity when the athletes really take advantage of it.
That's so amazing. And really, that is legacy in action, both for that athlete, but also for the university. I think universities have always looked and had an incentive for their athletes to succeed after school. But the ability to have even the basic resources of the $10,000 on up to developing a business while you're in school is really amazing. And I congratulate you for that. And I congratulate that athlete as well. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your contribution to the University of Florida. I appreciate you joining the show. This has been the second episode of the first season of the Always an Athlete podcast with the great Ben Chase, Director of NIL Strategy for the University of Florida. And I thank you, Ben, for your time. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, and go Gators. Hope to see the next few episodes and seasons as they come out.
Thank you, Ben.